I don't know what kind of reckless, high-stakes celestial gamble the universe was playing when it decided to crash these two completely different worlds together. But the fallout was nothing short of a romantic nuclear explosion. On one side of the ring, you had Chineduchi Chinuosu, a vibrant, fiercely independent Nigerian woman straight out of Lagos, whose life was fueled by spicy jollof rice, high-octane Nollywood drama, and an unhealthy addiction to billionaires who cry tears of repentance romance novels. Chi-Chi didn't just want love. She wanted a cinematic production. She wanted a man who would write her poetry, hold the umbrella for her in the rain, and call her my queen in a voice so soft it could melt butter. Instead, she got Park Min-jun. Min-jun was the undisputed, stone-faced boss of the most feared syndicate in Seoul. He was a man who communicated entirely in death threats, grunt frequencies, and property damage. Min-jun's idea of courting a woman didn't involve soft lighting or gentle whispers. It involved tactical operations. When he realized he was madly in love with Chi-Chi, his brain didn't process buy her a teddy bear. No, his brain processed secure the asset. The very first time he realized he had feelings for her, he didn't ask her out on a date. He literally had 3 black SUVs cut off her Uber in broad daylight, ordered 4 suited bodyguards to open her door, and had them hand her a pristine, gold-plated invitation to a private dinner while he watched from behind tinted windows like a suspicious government official. Chi-Chi had spent the first 20 minutes of their relationship assuming she was being kidnapped for ransom, only to find out he just wanted to share some premium Korean barbecue with her. Min-jun was doing the absolute highest effort best his emotionally stunted, mafia-trained heart could manage. The tragic, hilarious problem? His absolute best looked exactly like a felony. The cultural and communication clash was never more evident than at the annual Seoul Elite Gala. Chi-Chi looked absolutely breathtaking in a custom, vibrant Ankara gown with a towering, matching gel that practically demanded its own zip code. Min-jun walked beside her, looking lethal in a bespoke black suit. But he wasn't looking at the art. He was scanning the room like he was expecting a sniper to pop out of the chocolate fountain. Chi-Chi wanted a romantic evening. She wanted to glide across the floor, sip champagne, and hear him whisper sweet, poetic microdoses of affection into her ear. Instead, she got the full syndicate experience. When the city mayor walked over to introduce himself, Chi-Chi smiled warmly. "Good evening, Mr. Mayor. It's such an honor to..." Min-jun stepped squarely in front of her, his face like a granite wall, cutting the mayor off completely. "State your name and business. If you take one more step toward my woman, your entire administration will experience a sudden, catastrophic budget deficit. Vacate the premises." "Min-jun?" Chi-Chi hissed, pinching his arm with the terrifying, agonizing strength of a true Nigerian woman. "He was just saying hello. Be polite, ah." "I was polite," Min-jun muttered, his eyes tracking the mayor's frantic retreat. "I didn't break his fingers." Later, a slow, romantic song began to play. Chi-Chi sighed dreamily, swaying her hips slightly. "Oh, I love this song. It's so beautiful. It makes me want to just melt." Min-jun didn't offer his hand. He didn't bow. He reached out, grabbed her by the wrist, and yanked her forward so forcefully that her heels briefly lost contact with the marble floor, locking her into a suffocating, vice-like embrace. Min-jun, you are suffocating my destiny. She gasped, her face pressed firmly into his chest. This is not dancing. This is a hostage situation. Shut up and hold on, Min-jun growled, staring intensely over her head at the exit doors while swaying rigidly from side to side like a malfunctioning pendulum. The perimeter is secure. Enjoy the romance. If public events were a diplomatic minefield, their private time at home was an absolute comedy of errors. Chi-Chi would painstakingly set the mood. She would light expensive scented candles, turn off the harsh overhead lights, put on some smooth, seductive Afro beats, and wear a stunning silk robe. She wanted soft cuddles. She wanted him to gently run his fingers through her hair and ask her how her day was with a tender, dimpled smile. Min-jun would walk into the room, fresh from a meeting where he had likely just threatened to burn down 3 different shipping docks. He would see Chi-Chi, his eyes would darken with intense passion, and his primitive mafia instincts would immediately override any sense of normal human decency. One evening, Chi-Chi was sitting peacefully on the couch reading a book. Min-jun walked in, looked at her, and without a single word kicked the heavy mahogany coffee table out of the way, grabbed her by the waist, and hoisted her forcefully onto his lap. "Oga, gentle," Chi-Chi yelled, her book flying across the room. "What is this? Am I a sack of rice?" Min-jun didn't say a syllable. His expression was fierce, his jaw clenched as if he were about to interrogate a rival gang leader. He cupped her jaw with a grip of literal iron and slammed his lips onto hers in a rough, breathless, cinematic kiss that left her completely dizzy, mostly because she was actively running out of oxygen. He finally pulled back, breathing heavily, looking incredibly proud of his performance. "You are mine," he rasped, sounding like a villain boasting at the end of an action movie. Chi-Chi sat up, fixing her hair with utter, exhausted exasperation. "Min-jun, look at my face. Look at me. Does this look like a woman who is being wooed, or a woman who just survived a head-on collision? Where is the please? Where is the you look beautiful tonight, Chi-Chi? You just barked at me and swallowed my entire nose." Min-jun frowned, genuinely, profoundly confused. He tilted his head. "I kissed you. I did not demand tax or collateral. That is affection." "That is the salt on my lips," Chi-Chi cried out, throwing her hands in the air. "I need romance. I need you to ask, 'May I kiss you, beautiful?' And then you gently kiss me, like a prince. Not like you are reclaiming stolen property from the customs office." Min-jun stared at her, his intense dark eyes processing this bizarre foreign data. He loved her fiercely. He wanted to please her. He stood up, adjusted his silk shirt, and took a deep, grounding breath to attempt this polite romance she was begging for. He stepped forward, his face twitching violently as he forced an unpracticed, terrifying smile that looked like a horror movie villain trying to blend in with society. He cleared his throat and used his deepest, most aggressive mafia boss's voice to deliver what he genuinely thought was a gentle, polite compliment. "Your presence is highly acceptable to my organization. If anyone insults your beauty, I will personally dissolve their lineage and delete their birth certificate. Now, yield to my embrace or there will be severe consequences." Chi-Chi buried her face in her hands, laughing so hard her entire body shook. "Oh my God, you are completely hopeless. Jesus, change your character, Min-jun." Min-jun stood there, hands on his hips, completely baffled as to why his ultimate romantic declaration had resulted in his woman laughing herself off the sofa. But as he watched her beautiful, bright smile, a tiny, rare, genuine smirk crept onto his own face. He still didn't know how to be a prince, but he was fully prepared to eliminate anyone who dared to stop her from laughing. Absolutely nothing. It was Chikai's mother, Mrs. Comfort Enosu, calling live from Lagos via WhatsApp video. Chi-Chi had set up the phone on the dining table, warning Minjun for 3 straight days to be on his absolute best behavior. If you bark at my mother the way you bark at your henchman, Minjun, I swear, I will pack my bags and you will never see me again. Minjun sat rigidly in front of the screen, sweating more than he did during a multi-million-dollar police raid. The phone rang and the screen flashed to reveal Mrs. Noisu, wearing a massive pair of reading glasses and looking suspiciously into the camera. "Chi-Chi, is that the boy?" her mother shouted, adjusting her phone so all they could see was her forehead and the ceiling fan. "Yes, Mummy. This is Minjun," Chi-Chi said, smiling brightly. "Say hello, Minjun." Minjun cleared his throat, his posture going completely military straight. He wanted to show respect, but his brain only knew how to respect a senior cartel boss. He looked directly into the camera with a deadpan, lethal stare. "Greetings, Elder Noisu," Minjun barked, his voice echoing through the penthouse. "I am Park Minjun. Your daughter is secure under my jurisdiction. Have established full dominance over the local territories, and I assure you, no rival faction will ever touch her. Her financial liquidity is guaranteed." Chikai's jaw dropped. She slapped her forehead. "Minjun, oh my God." On the other side of the screen, Mrs. Nosu paused. She adjusted her glasses, bringing her face incredibly close to the camera. Chi-Chi braced for impact, expecting her mother to scream at this aggressive Asian man. Instead, Mrs. Noisu let out a massive, booming laugh. "Aeon, a real man. Chi-Chi, I like this one. He sounds like a proper military governor. He is not like those soft boys in Lagos who will be begging you for data money." Minjun blinked, completely thrown off. He looked at Chi-Chi, then back to the screen. "Listen to me, my son," Mrs. Nosu continued, pointing a warning finger at the camera. "She has a strong head, oh? If she misbehaves, lock the door. Don't let her go out." Minchon's eyes lit up with sudden, dangerous understanding. "Understood, Mother. House arrest can be arranged immediately." "No, no house arrest. Mummy, stop encouraging him," Chi-Chi yelled, snatching the phone away. "He's an actual criminal, Mummy. He doesn't know how to be gentle." "Ah, shut up, Chi-Chi. A man must have authority." Mrs. Noisu dismissed her daughter with a wave of her hand. "Minjun, send me that Korean ginseng I'm seeing on TikTok, okay? God bless your business." The call ended and Minjun looked at Chi-Chi, puffing his chest out with supreme arrogance. "Your maternal leader approves of my methods. The alliance is sealed." "You two are a danger to society," Chi-Chi groaned, sinking into her chair. Later that night, the adrenaline from the family call had faded, and Minjun was feeling incredibly smug. He walked into the bedroom wearing nothing but black silk pajama pants, his heavily tattooed chest and shoulders on full display. He looked like an underworld god, and he knew it. Chi-Chi was sitting up in bed applying her nighttime skincare routine. deliberately ignoring him to punish him for his behavior during the call. Minjun didn't walk over gracefully. He marched to the edge of the bed, crawled over the mattress like a panther stalking prey, and pinned her hands gently but firmly above her head. "You are ignoring me," he growled, his face inches from hers. His dark eyes were burning with desire, but his tones sounded like he was accusing a smuggler of stealing inventory. "This is a violation of our emotional trade agreement." Ziji looked up at him, her heart doing a little flip despite herself, but she maintained her stubborn pout. "Let go of my hands, Minjun. I am on strike. No romance, no intimacy, nothing, until you can show me you have a gentle bone in your body." Minjun narrowed his eyes. He hated losing a negotiation. He leaned down and aggressively bit her earlobe, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to make her gasp. "You want gentle?" he whispered, his rough voice sending shivers down her spine. "I am being gentle. If I were not being gentle, the bed would already be broken." "Ah, look at this man. Is that supposed to be a sweet nothing?" Chi-Chi laughed, trying to wiggle out of his grip, but it was like trying to escape a concrete mold. "You are supposed to whisper things like, 'You are the light of my life, Chi-Chi,' not threaten the structural integrity of the furniture." Minjun stopped. He let go of her hands, sat back on his knees, and looked genuinely frustrated. He ran a hand through his dark hair. "I do not know these words, Chi-Chi. In my world, if you show softness, you die. If I tell you you are my weakness, my enemies will use it." Kikai's expression softened. She sat up, crossing her legs, and reached out to touch his face. For a brief second, Minjun actually flinched, unaccustomed to tender touch, before leaning into her warm palm. "But we are not with your enemies right now, Minjun," she said softly, her voice dropping to that sweet, comforting tone he secretly craved. "We are in our home. With me, you can be soft. You don't have to conquer me. You already have me." Minjun stared at her, his intense gaze softening into something raw and incredibly vulnerable. He swallowed hard. He reached out, his large, scarred hand trembling slightly as he placed it on her cheek. He tried so hard to do exactly what she asked. He moved slowly, tilting his head, leaning in millimeter by millimeter. Chi-Chi closed her eyes, her heart swelling. Finally, she thought, the romance I've been praying for. Minchun's lips gently brushed against hers. It was soft. It was polite. It was perfect. But the moment lasted exactly 3 seconds before Minchun's patience completely evaporated. The overwhelming passion took over. His mafia instincts snapped back into place, and he grabbed the back of her neck, pulling her into a fierce, dominant, breath-stealing kiss that knocked them both flat onto the pillows. He pulled back a minute later, both of them panting, Chica's wig slightly askew and her lips completely swollen. Minjun smirked down at her, his arrogant, aggressive charm back in full force. "I tried your way. My way is better." Chi-Chi took a deep, ragged breath, looking up at her handsome, chaotic criminal. She adjusted her hair, sighed in utter defeat, and pulled him back down by his collar. "You are an absolute animal," she muttered against his lips, "but I suppose the security is excellent." The penthouse had officially transformed into a high-security Arctic tundra. Chi-Chi had instituted a full-scale emotional blockade, and for the first time in his life, Park Min-jun was experiencing absolute, paralyzing terror. It started 3 days ago when Min-jun, attempting to show affection, had physically lifted Chi-Chi off the kitchen counter to move her out of the way of his espresso machine. No, excuse me, my love, just a swift, silent, tactical relocation. Chi-Chi had snapped. She snapped so hard the ancestors in Lagos felt the vibration.
Now.
She was delivering the ultimate weapon in a Nigerian woman's arsenal. The heavy sucking of teeth, McHugh, paired with the eternal stare. Min-jun walked into the living room, trying to project his usual aura of terrifying syndicate authority. But inside, his knees were shaking. Chi-Chi was sitting on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. He took a step toward her. Step 1. Initiate proximity. Chi-Chi didn't look up, but her left eyebrow migrated so far up her forehead, it was practically in her hairline. If you take one more step toward me without a polite good morning, Chi-Chi, I will pack my bag so fast your bodyguards won't even see the dust, she said, her voice dripping with ice. Min-jun froze, mid-stride, like a statue in a bespoke suit. His brain scrambled for a response. What do civilians say? What is the protocol for a non-hostile greeting? Good morning, Chi-Chi, he rasped, the words sounding like they were being dragged over gravel. He attempted a gentle step forward and reached his hand out to touch her shoulder. Kitty slapped his hand away with a sound like a pistol shot. Don't touch me. Look at you, coming like a spirit to come and grab me. Did I steal your money? Am I one of your debtors? I was trying to anchor you to my location. Min-jun defended himself, genuinely stressed, his hands flying to his hips. You have not spoken to me in 72 hours. My intelligence reports indicate you are planning an exit strategy. All your intelligence reports are correct, Oga. Chi-Chi stood up, tying her silk robe tight around her waist like a warrior putting on armor. Because I am tired. I am dating a man, not a SWAT team. If you cannot learn how to treat a woman like a delicate flower, then go and marry your syndicate. We are done. She marched past him, her hips swinging with so much attitude, it practically created a wind tunnel in the living room. Min-jun stood there, utterly paralyzed. He had survived 3 assassination attempts and a cartel war. But this 5'5" Nigerian woman throwing a McHugh at him had his entire life flashing before his eyes. Determined to fix the situation before she actually bought a one-way ticket to Lagos, Min-jun decided to follow her to the luxury supermarket down the street. He didn't bring his usual convoy of 5 SUVs, but he did bring his 2 top henchmen, Sang-woo and Jin-ho, who were currently hiding behind the organic cereal display, looking deeply uncomfortable in their black suits. Chi-Chi was pushing her cart down the aisle, aggressively tossing items inside. Yum, plantain, chin-chin. Min-jun appeared at the end of the aisle. He had loosened his tie by exactly 2 millimeters to look casual and approachable, but he still looked like he was about to hit someone with a pipe. Chi-Chi, he called out, his voice bouncing off the cereal boxes. Chi-Chi looked at him, gave a massive theatrical sigh, and turned her cart directly around, wheeling away from him at high speed. Ebig, leave me alone, Min-jun. I am shopping. Min-jun panicked. His tactical brain took over. Target is fleeing the sector. Intercept. He sprinted down the aisle, his shiny leather shoes squeaking loudly on the linoleum. He didn't just walk up to her. He grabbed the front of her shopping cart, sliding it to a screeching halt like a drift car. "Halt!" Minjun commanded, breathing heavily. "We must negotiate. Look at me." "Are you crazy?" Chi-Chi yelled, looking around as several high society elderly Korean ladies gasped and clutched their pearls. "You are tracking me in the supermarket. Look at your boys over there by the cornflakes. Do you think this is a movie?" From behind the display, Sang-woo and Jin-ho quickly popped their heads out, bowed respectfully to Chi-Chi, and hid again. Min-jun ignored them. He stepped closer, trying to lower his voice to that gentle, polite tone she wanted, but because he was so stressed, it came out as a terrifying, intense stage whisper. "I am trying to be romantic. I followed you to the provisions store. I am here to sponsor your groceries. Take whatever you want. I will buy the whole establishment. Just do not leave the penthouse." He reached out, his hand trembling slightly as he tried to gently stroke her cheek the way she had taught him. But because he was overthinking the mechanics of a gentle touch, his hand looked like a mechanical claw slowly descending on her face. Chi-Chi batted his hand away again, her eyes flashing with pure Nigerian drama. "Sponsor my groceries. Min-jun, do I look like I am starving? Is it food I asked for? I asked for affection. I asked for a man who knows how to say 'I'm sorry, baby' without threatening to buy the building. You are completely toxic." She pushed her cart right into his shins, forcing him to step back and storm toward the checkout lane. Min-jun stood in the middle of the aisle, clutching his bruised shins, completely defeated. He looked over at his two henchmen. "Sung-woo, Jin-ho, come out." The two giant mafiosos shuffled over, looking terrified. "Boss, she is very formidable," Sung-woo whispered. "Her aura is stronger than the triad leaders from Busan." "I am losing her," Minjun muttered, staring blankly at the tower of imported plantains. "And for the first time in my life, I do not know how to fight back." Back at the penthouse, the situation had reached code red. Chi-Chi had locked herself in the guest bedroom. Min-jun could hear the distinct sound of Burna Boy music playing from inside, which his intelligence, Google told him, meant she was empowering herself for a breakup. Desperate, chaotic, and completely out of his mind with the fear of losing his woman, Min-jun dragged his two highest-ranking captains into his private study. The two heavily tattooed underworld enforcers were forced to sit on tiny velvet chairs, while Min-jun paced back and forth in front of a giant whiteboard. On the whiteboard, he had written in big, bold letters, "Project Gentle Prince." "We have a crisis," Min-jun announced, slamming his fist on the desk. "Chi-Chi is refusing my touch. She is denying my presence. She says I am toxic and acting like a SWAT team. We need to analyze our tactical errors regarding romance." Sung-woo raised his hand timidly. "Boss, with all due respect, yesterday you told her that her skin looked as smooth as a newly polished pistol. Perhaps that was not the right metaphor?" Min-jun froze. He looked at the whiteboard. "It is a high-quality pistol. It is a compliment." "No, boss," Jin-ho chimed in, sweating. "My wife watches those K-dramas. The men there, they do not talk about firearms. They do not grab the woman by the neck like they are performing a chokehold. They look into her eyes, they smile softly, and they say things like, "You are my universe. Without you, I cannot breathe." Min-jun grimaced as if he had just swallowed a lemon. "That sounds like a medical condition. It lacks authority." "But boss, it works," Jinho insisted. And when they kiss, they do not snatch the woman like a bag of cash. They ask, they say, "Can I?" And then they move at the speed of a snail. Min-jun stared at the whiteboard, his mind blowing wide open. Speed of a snail, ask permission, no pistol references. He looked toward the locked guest bedroom. He loved her so much, it felt like a knife in his chest, and if he had to humiliate his mafia pride to keep her, he would do it. He stood up, adjusted his shirt, and looked at his men. "Clear the perimeter," Min-jun commanded, his eyes filled with a new, chaotic determination. "I am going in, and if I fail, tell the organization I died with honor." Min-jun stood outside the guest bedroom door, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped animal. He straightened his shoulders, practiced his soft, snail-speed face in the reflection of a nearby vase, and knocked. Not a tactical, door-splintering mafia knock, but 3 polite, rhythmic taps. "Enter." Shikai's voice came out cold and flat. Min-jun pushed the door open slowly. Chi-Chi was standing by the bed, a massive suitcase wide open, aggressively folding her favorite Ankara dresses. Burna Boy's music was fading out on her phone, replaced by the tense silence of a courtroom. Min-jun took a deep breath, executing Jinho's advice. He lowered his voice by 2 octaves, trying to channel a K-drama prince. Though it sounded like a villain trying to speak through a fan. "Chi-Chi, the atmosphere without you is unbreathable. You are my universe. May I approach your perimeter?" Chi-Chi paused, a colorful head wrap in her hands. She looked at his rigid posture, his twitching smile, and sighed. "Min-jun, stop practicing your Google translation on me. It's too late." Panic flashed through his dark eyes. Target is unimpressed. Pivot to physical affection. Min-jun abandoned the snail speed protocol. He launched forward across the room, grabbed her by the waist, and attempted to pull her into a cinematic embrace to prove his love. "Let go of me," Chi-Chi screamed, her Lagos energy exploding. She used her elbow to strike his chest, forcing him back. "See? Look at you. You cannot even listen for 2 seconds. I am talking about my feelings, and you are trying to wrestle me onto the bed." "I'm showing passion," Min-jun yelled back, his mafia temper finally breaking through his fragile, romantic exterior. He gripped her suitcase handle, his face turning dark. "You are not leaving this sector. I have ordered the airport authorities to flag your passport. You stay here with me." That was the absolute last straw. Chi-Chi stopped moving. Her face went completely blank, an expression of pure, icy determination that terrified Min-jun more than a loaded gun. "Min-jun, look at me," she said, her voice dangerously quiet. "If you follow me, if you touch me, if you use your boys to stop my plane, I will kill myself for you. I will end it right there so you can finally be happy with your hostage. Do you hear me? Don't you ever get close to me again." The words hit Min-jun like a physical blow. He staggered back a step, his hands dropping to his sides. His mind went entirely chaotic. She would rather die than be with me? The absolute finality in her eyes broke something inside him. He stood frozen, watching through a blur of silent frustration as she zipped her suitcase, pulled the handle, and marched right past him out of the penthouse. He didn't follow. He couldn't. 2 weeks passed. Chi-Chi was back in the bustling, chaotic heat of Lagos, eating proper jollof rice and trying to heal her bruised heart. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, the syndicate was completely falling apart because their boss had lost his mind. Min Jun was a ghost. He sat in his dark office staring at a single, colorful, scrunchy Chi-Chi had left behind on his desk. He hadn't slept in 14 days. During a high-stakes meeting with a rival gang leader who owed the syndicate $5 million, Min Jun was supposed to be intimidating. Instead, when the rival boss started making excuses, Min Jun just stared out the window and muttered, "She said I was toxic. Sang-woo, do you think I am toxic?" Boss?" Sang-woo stammered, looking at the rival leader, who was equally confused. "We are in the middle of a turf negotiation." "She told me not to get close to her," Min Jun whispered, his voice cracking with pure heartbreak. "I just wanted to protect her destiny." The rival boss slowly put his pen down. Is the Park Syndicate going through an emotional restructuring? Should we come back next week? Later that night, Sang-woo found Min Jun in the penthouse, drinking premium whiskey out of a glass, staring at the empty space where Chike's shoe rack used to be. Sang-woo took a brave step forward. "Boss, you cannot continue like this. The Busan cartel thinks we are weak because you cried during yesterday's interrogation. We need our leader back. But more importantly, you need your woman back." "She will kill herself if I go near her," Min Jun groaned, slamming his glass down. "I am an animal, Sang-woo. I only know how to conquer." "Then learn how to surrender, boss," Sang-woo said earnestly. "There is a man, a specialist, a professional romance consultant who trains high-profile chaebols and awkward billionaires. Take a leave of absence, go to his academy. For 3 months, disappear, and learn how to be a prince." Min Jun looked at the colorful scrunchie in his hand. He clenched his jaw. "Prepare the tuition fee. If I can learn how to dismantle a bomb, I can learn how to buy a flower." Welcome to the Seoul Academy of Elite Courtship, run by Master Pierre Cho, a man who wore pastel pink suits, smelled heavily of lavender, and possessed a dramatic flair that rivaled a telenovela. On day 1, Min Jun walked into the private studio, wearing his standard, intimidating black suit and a scowl. Master Pierre took one look at him, gasped theatrically, and threw his hands in the air. "No, absolute trash," Pierre shrieked, running over and swatting Min Jun's chest with a silk handkerchief. "The posture. You look like you're about to execute me. Relax the shoulders. Unclench the jaw. You are trying to woo a lady, not extort a shopkeeper." Min Jun's hand instinctively moved toward his waistband where his firearm usually sat. "Watch your tone, civilian. I can have this building leveled." Aggression. Deduct 10 romance points," Pierre yelled, writing furiously on a pink clipboard. "For the next 3 months, your mafia identity is dead. You are a puppy. You are a soft, fluffy cloud. Now, sit." The classes were pure, unadulterated chaos. Week 4, the text message simulation. Pierre set a timer. "Your lady sends a text. I had a bad day at work. You have 30 seconds to respond. Go." Min Jun sat aggressively over a smartphone, sweat dripping from his forehead. His fingers flew across the screen. He showed his draft to Pierre. Minchon's draft. Give me the names of your colleagues. By 0800 hours tomorrow, their employment will be terminated and their assets frozen. Rest well. Pierce slapped his own forehead so hard it left a red mark. Horrible. Disastrous. You are comforting her, not launching a military coup. Erase it. Write this. Oh no, my sweet princess. I wish I could be there to hold you. Let me order your favorite meal. You are so strong. Minjun stared at the screen, his fingers trembling as he forced himself to type the word princess. He looked physically ill. This violates my personal code of conduct. Type it or you will die alone in your giant penthouse, Pierre barked. To fix Minchon's rough iron grip habits, Pierre introduced a unique exercise. Approach the balloon, Minjun. Slowly, snail speed. Pierre instructed from a corner, playing soft violin music on his phone. Minjun stepped forward, his eyes narrowed with intense concentration. He reached his massive, tattooed hand out to gently caress the cheek of the balloon. But his instincts kicked in. He moved too fast, his grip tightened, and
Whoop.
the balloon exploded. Minjun stood there holding a piece of shredded rubber, his face covered in static. Again, Pierre screamed. You are still grabbing it like a hostage. Soft. Imagine it is a delicate souffle. By week 12, after exploding roughly 400 balloons, writing 50 pages of hypothetical love letters, and practicing the Kadal-nama eye contact tilt for 4 hours a day in front of a mirror, something in Minchon's hard wiring actually began to change. He learned how to smile without looking like a serial killer. He learned how to touch something without trying to break it. On the final day of graduation, Pierre looked at Minjun, who was now wearing a soft, beige cashmere sweater instead of his rigid black suit jacket. Minjun walked over to a final intact red balloon, gently cupped its side with a feather-light touch, leaned in at the perfect 45-degree angle, and whispered, "May I kiss you?" Pierre burst into tears, clapping his hands wildly. "Magnificent! You are ready, my monster prince. Go to Africa. Reclaim your queen." Park Minjun was currently sitting in the first-class lounge at Incheon International Airport, having a full-blown internal identity crisis. He was dressed in a soft, beige cashmere sweater that Master Pierre had practically forced him into. But beneath that cozy knitwear, his heart was a chaotic war zone. For the first time in his legendary underworld career, he was terrified. He wasn't afraid of rival syndicates. He was afraid of a 5'5" Nigerian woman with a devastating McHugh. "Sungwoo," Minjun rasped, staring blankly at his passport. What if I stepped foot in Lagos and she immediately executes her threat? She said she would kill herself if I got close. What if my presence causes her physical expiration? Sungwoo, who was holding a briefcase filled with premium Korean ginseng and emergency romantic chocolate, sighed. "Boss, she said that because you were acting like an arrest warrant, now you have the Pierre Cho certification. You are a transformed man." "But look at me," Minjun hissed, pulling at the soft fabric of his sweater. "I look like a giant teddy bear. If the Busan cartel sees me like this, my reputation is destroyed. And what if she rejects this new version? What if she misses the rough man but hates the criminal? My brain is short-circuiting Sangwoo. The mathematics of romance do not add up." He stood up to cancel the flight, but then his eyes fell on the colorful scrunchie wrapped around his wrist. He remembered her laugh, her beautiful smile, and how the penthouse felt like a tomb without her. He clenched his jaw, his eyes flashing with a mix of mafia determination and Pierre Cho's dramatic flair. "No," Jun declared, grabbing his coat. "We launched the operation. Destination: Lagos, Nigeria." The transition from the cold, organized streets of Seoul to the vibrant, chaotic, high-decibel energy of Surreal Lagos was enough to give Min-jun whiplash. The air was thick with the aroma of roasting plantains, the blaring horns of yellow Danfo buses, and the inescapable heat. Min-jun stood directly outside the black metal gates of Chikai's family compound. He didn't bring a convoy. He stood alone. He knocked. Tap, tap, tap. Snail speed protocol. The small pedestrian gate slid open, and Chi-Chi looked out. The moment she saw him standing there in his soft sweater, holding a single, slightly wilted tropical flower, her face hardened into pure concrete. "Min-jun, what did I tell you?" she shouted over the noise of a passing generator. "Are you deaf? I said don't ever come near me again. Move away from my gate before I call the neighborhood vigilante for you." "Chi-Chi, please," Min-jun said. He forced his face to relax, attempting the 45-degree K-drama tilt. "Give me 3 minutes of your emotional bandwidth." "I am not giving you even half a second, Shalim." She slammed the gate shut in his face. Most men would leave. The old Min-jun would have ordered his men to dismantle the gate with a crowbar. But the new Min-jun remembered the balloon drill. He stood his ground. 2 hours passed, then 4, then 6. By late afternoon, the Lagos sky turned pitch black and a massive, torrential tropical thunderstorm opened up. The rain fell in heavy, violent sheets, completely drenching Min-jun within seconds. His pristine cashmere sweater shrank instantly, clinging to his heavily tattooed frame like plastic wrap. His meticulously styled hair collapsed into his eyes. He looked like a drowned, miserable underworld cat. Inside the house, Sichi was pacing, looking out the window. "This foolish man," she muttered, her heart tugging painfully. "Why is he still standing there in this heavy rain? Does he want to catch pneumonia?" Finally, after 9 hours of the siege, the gate clicked open. Chi-Chi stood there under a massive umbrella, looking at him with a mixture of anger and deep, reluctant pity. "Step inside before the rain washes away your remaining senses. Move!" Min-jun sat on a plastic chair in the veranda, shivering violently, a colorful towel draped over his broad shoulders. Chi-Chi stood in front of him, hands on her hips, looking like a judge delivering a final verdict. "Talk," she commanded, "and if you bark at me once, you are going back to the rain." Min-jun looked up at her, his dark eyes raw with vulnerability. He didn't lock her in a vice-like grip. He kept his hands flat on his knees. "Chi-Chi," he began, his voice trembling from the cold and the sheer emotion. "I am profoundly sorry. I am an absolute animal." Chikse's eyebrow twitched. "Ion? Continue." "For my entire life I was trained to conquer. To protect an asset, I must lock it in a vault. When I fell in love with you, my brain computed you as the most valuable asset in my universe. I thought, if I did not hold you with a grip of iron, the world would take you from me. When I yanked you on the dance floor, I was checking the perimeter for your safety. When I kissed you roughly, I was trying to consume your presence, so I knew you were real." He took a deep breath, a tear mixing with the rain droplets on his cheek. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a strong man for you. I did not know. I did not realize that my strength was crushing your spirit. I was hurting the only person who made my heart beat. I went to an academy. For 3 months, I exploded 400 balloons trying to learn how to touch you softly. I am a monster, Chi-Chi, but I am your monster if you will have me." Chi-Chi stared at him, the sheer drama of a feared Korean mafia boss shivering in a plastic chair in Lagos. Talking about exploding balloons and emotional bandwidth was almost too much to handle. Her heart melted completely, but she was a Lagos babe. She wasn't going to give in that easily. She narrowed her eyes. "So you think 3 months of blowing balloons fixes everything? Oga, you have tried. But you see this Nigerian love? You must earn it. You will stay in the guest house, and you will be tested." Min-chan's posture went straight. "I accept the terms of the evaluation." For the next 7 days, Chi-Chi put Park Min-jun through a brutal, hilarious gauntlet of domestic romance and cultural integration to see if his aggressive instincts were truly gone. Chi-Chi made him drive her through the infamous Third Mainland Bridge traffic during rush hour, while an aggressive bus driver cut them off. The old Min-jun would have reached for a weapon. The new Min-jun clutched the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white, forced a terrifyingly peaceful smile, and whispered through gritted teeth, "Please proceed, my brother in transit. May your journey be blessed." Chi-Chi checked it off her list. Passed. She served him a bowl of authentic, extra spicy pepper soup that looked like molten lava. Min-chan's eyes watered, his throat burned, and his entire digestive system screamed for mercy. He took a sip, looked Chi-Chi directly in the eyes with absolute watery devotion, and said, "This soup is as warm and passionate as your love, my queen." Then he discreetly chugged a gallon of milk while she wasn't looking. Passed. On the 7th night, they were sitting on the veranda watching the Lagos sunset. The air was cool, and the tension had finally evaporated. Min-jun slowly turned to her. He didn't jump across the space. He didn't kick any furniture. He reached out his hand, moving at the absolute agonizing speed of a snail, and gently, feather lightly, touched the tips of her fingers. He looked into her eyes, his expression completely soft, entirely human. "Chi-Chi," he murmured, his voice rich and steady. "Your presence is the only territory I care to govern. May I hold your hand?" Chi-Chi looked down at their hands, then up at his handsome, entirely humbled face. A beautiful, brilliant smile broke across her lips. "Yes, Min-jun, you may." He smiled, a real, genuine, dimpled smile that didn't look like a horror movie villain. He gently folded his fingers around hers. "And Chi-Chi?" he whispered, leaning in slowly, perfectly maintaining the 45-degree angle Pierre Cho had taught him. "May I kiss my queen?" Chi-Chi laughed, her heart overflowing with joy. She reached up, grabbed him by his soft cashmere collar, and pulled him down to her. "Oh, shut up and kiss me already, you dramatic man." The kiss was soft, it was polite, it was perfectly gentle for about 5 seconds, until Chi-Chi herself deepened it with that fiery Nollywood passion she loved so much. Min-jun smiled against her lips, completely content. He still didn't know how to write poetry, and his boys were still hiding in a yellow minibus outside the compound. But as he held his queen in the heart of Lagos, the undisputed boss of Seoul knew one thing for certain. His cartel days were over, but his reign as a gentle prince had just begun. The Seoul penthouse is no longer a cold, sterile concrete fortress. Today, the floors are covered in plush rugs. The sweet aroma of smoky, jollof rice permanently counters the smell of high-end espresso. And smooth Afrobeats tracks regularly blast through the multi-million-dollar surround sound system. He no longer threatens to break the legs of rival gang leaders. Instead, he looks them dead in the eye, lets out a massive, theatrical, masterfully executed Lagos McHugh, and asks, "Are you quite finished with your foolishness? Or must I call my mother-in-law, Mrs. Comfort No Sue, to handle your lack of discipline?" The rival cartels instantly surrender out of sheer psychological confusion. And as for Chi-Chi, she finally got her cinematic romance. Every evening, the most feared man in South Korea walks into the living room, slowly approaches her perimeter at the exact speed of a snail, bows with flawless K-drama elegance, and gently whispers, "You are my entire universe, my beautiful African queen. May I have the distinct honor of holding your hand while we watch this Nollywood movie?" Chi-Chi just smiles, pulls him down into a passionate, breathless kiss, and whispers back, "You're learning, my monster prince. You're learning." Rival triad from Busan mistakenly tries to kidnap Chi-Chi to get to Minjun, completely unaware that she possesses the terrifying verbal warfare of a Lagos woman. Minjun arrives at the rescue scene only to find the rival gang crying on the floor while Chi-Chi lectures them on their poor life choices. Cast your vote in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next dramatic drop.